Throughout the 19th century, Americans expanded their territory, making treaties and compromises with other nations as well as other states. They believed that it was their right to expand, and this later became known as manifest
I would
destiny.
have to say that there are many causes to the Mexican-American War. The annexation of Texas into the United States directly led to the Mexican-American War, but a driving force was manifest destiny.
This was the theory that the United States needed to expand all over North America to succeed, but there was a controversy over annexing Texas. This controversy was that Congress approved the annexation of Texas as a territory with a simple majority vote approval, instead of
Annexing the land by treaty as done with the Native American lands. The significance of this event was major territorial gain for the United States, and it renewed the slavery question and ultimately contributed to the start of the Civil War.
Adding new territories has been a central theme for Manifest Destiny and how they have caused a lot of controversy. One of these treaties following the Mexican-American War was the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. This treaty forced Mexico to give the territories of Alta California to New Mexico to the United States. Another central theme was divisions over slavery. Slavery grew a lot over the 1800s, creating tensions between the North and the South.
Missouri wanted to enter the Union as a slave state, but that would give slave states more power in Congress, so Maine was also added to the Union as a free state. Also, an imaginary line was drawn over Missouri saying that any state north of that must be free, but Missouri could be a free state. The Wilmot Proviso, not being passed, contributed to the growth of slavery, which will be discussed about later. Also, slave trade was banned in Washington, D.C., but Congress could not ban it in the southern states.
Another compromise that made a lot of changes was the Compromise of 1850. California requested admission to the Union as a free state. If California was admitted, then the balance of power in Congress would shift to the free states. To solve this issue, Henry Clay and Stephen Douglas proposed a plan that said California would be admitted as a free state, and the rest of the Mexican secession was divided into the territories of New Mexico and Utah. In each territory, popular sovereignty would dictate whether or not slavery would be allowed.
Trade was ended in Washington, D.C., but Congress could not stop the trade of slaves between slave states. A strictly fugitive slave law was passed, called the Fugitive Slave Act.
most Northerners ignored the fugitive slave law and helped slaves escape north and let them live as free citizens. The law said that all citizens must help catch runaway slaves, and anyone found to be helping runaway slaves could be fined up to $1,000 and imprisoned for 6 months. Special courts would be set up to hear the cases of runaways. Judges in these courts would receive $10 for sending an accused runaway to the South, and only $5 if they set them free. This angered the North because they wanted slaves to be free.
Popular sovereignty was proposed in 1847 by Vice President George Dallas. This idea was then popularized by Lewis Cass in his 1848 presidential campaign. Popular sovereignty states that the source of government power is in the hands of the people. This comes from the idea that government was made for the benefit of its people. Thomas Hobbes, John Locke, and Jean-Jacques Rousseau had many writings that led to the formation of this idea. Popular sovereignty was also incorporated into the Compromise of 1850. The Wilmot Proviso was one of the major events that led to the Civil War. The Wilmot Proviso would have banned slavery in every territory acquired from Mexico. Congressman David Wilmot introduced this to the House on August 8, 1846. It was intended to be one of the final negotiations in the Mexican-American War. It passed in the House of Representatives but failed in the Senate. The Wilmot Proviso was reintroduced to Congress in 1847, where it again passed in the House but failed in the Senate. The Oregon Treaty occurred after Spain and Russia surrendered their claims to the Oregon Territory. Both Britain and America claimed that the land was theirs. President Polk and the expansionists came up with the slogan, 54, 40, or fight. This was at the extreme north of the territory. In the end, it was settled that the U.S. had all land south of the 49th
The
parallel.
goal of the Gadsden Purchase was to ease tensions with Mexico. After the war, the United States wanted to ease tensions with Mexico. The governor of New Mexico claimed some land to be American land, and so Mexico sent troops in to settle the dispute. U.S. President Pierce sent in James Gadsden to negotiate it with Mexican President Santa Anna. This was how the Gadsden Purchase was made, and the United States bought land from Mexico and paid $10 million for 29,000 square miles of land. The expansion of the United States caused many treaties and compromises. Americans thought that it was their God-given right to expand, which caused disputes with other nations such as Mexico, and that led to treaties and compromises. Also, there were many disputes over slavery as to whether the newly admitted states would be slave states or free states. These were some of the central themes and ideas surrounding Manifest Destiny and how it affected society.